Welcome to another HanDrinksSolo Wine info video, this time on Arcangeli's Pellegrini Merlot Mataro 2019 blend. Arcangeli as an estate is a thoroughly underexposed gem located in the Botriver wine ward, which is inland just north of Walker Bay. Now, winemaker Krige Visser of Mount Abora fame is in no way shy of courting controversy. But this is one of his, probably his milder expressions of his desire to stick it to the man, as is his use of the term Mataro as opposed to Mourvedre in the name of the wine. Merlot is, of course, commonly associated with Bordeaux as being the kind of plusher, slightly easier to ripen, less austere blending partner with Cabernet Sauvignon. Mourvedre comes from Spain, where it's called Monastrell. But in the Southern Rhone, Mourvedre is often used in blends to add color and tannins, because in the Southern Rhone, Grenache is the lead singer, right? So Mourvedre gets to play bass, while Cinsault kind of shoe-ops in the background and does jazz hands. So now that we've put those two grapes in context, there's nowhere that I know of where Merlot and Mataro or Mourvedre or Monastrell are blended together as a matter of course. But then, this is the new world, baby. We can do what we want. And when one stops to think about it, blending Merlot and Mataro is actually not a crazy idea at all. Mourvedre or Mataro is like Cabernet Sauvignon, thick-skinned, slightly slower to ripen, has great color, provides huge structure. In the same way that Cabernet does to Merlot, why should Mourvedre play that role? Then when you bear in mind that Mourvedre is there to add color and also some intense black fruit notes, it's no surprise that this Pellegrini is an absolute fruit explosion. The nose is like an elephant seal. But before we get through the rest of the video, if you have already opened this bottle, I would go and put him in a decanter. Because while he's an absolutely magnificent beast, if you're going to drink it within the 2021 video, a decanter will do it a world of good, because the tannins on this guy are firmer than a beach volleyball butt cheek. And you might say, hey, decanting sounds like a hack. What does it even do, Basil? And fair question. Perhaps we should explore that right now. And honestly, it could all be a bunch of Uncle Banana. But I guess whether or not it is bogus depends on what you believe about decanting in the first place. So what does decanting not do? Well, if you believe that decanting will turn big, dry, mouth-coating tannins into delightfully small little silky bonbons of goodness in just an hour or two, then yea, verily, that is a supersized portion of bogus Uncle Banana. That process is called polymerization, and that will take years and years and years in the bottle. Good. I'm glad we got that out the way. So let's talk about what does decanting do? At its simplest level, opening a bottle of wine and pouring it into a decanter introduces oxygen to the wine and allows oxygen to do its thing. And you might ask, but what is its thing? Well, counterintuitively, in this particular context, oxygen's thing is not oxidation. The most important thing that air enables in this particular context is evaporation. For starters, the fact that you've removed the wine from its little bottle and poured it into a decanter with a large surface area means you've created a more effective frontier across which volatile aromas can leave the wine and pop up to say hi. Air literally carries these aromas up to meet us. But at this point, it's probably worth noting that not all these volatile aromatics are pleasant. We've spoken about these compounds before in some of our other videos on reduction. What happens is that in a bottle, it doesn't have enough oxygen in it. Sulfur-based compounds can be formed. And so when you open this bottle, you're greeted with notes of egg or boiled cabbage or moldy swamp donkey. Luckily, pouring it into the decanter, creating that large surface area, the more effective frontier across which volatiles can escape, in fact allows these unpleasant aromas to blow off more quickly. What is left behind, hopefully, is the slightly more long-lasting, pleasant, fruity aromas. So let's come back to our question, what does decanting do? Decanting is really more about what the process lets out, rather than any focus on the oxygen that you've let in. By getting rid of many of those savory, less pleasant, reductive compounds, you clear the aromatic landscape to allow the floral, fruity aromas to dominate. So by changing the aromatic landscape, you in turn change the way you experience the wine once you actually have the wine in your mouth. And it's really not that crazy an assertion when you think that some wines taste better when paired with certain foods. So in the same way, some wines taste better in your mouth when paired with fruity floral aromas rather than with sulfury, eggy aromas. But reductive compounds are not the only things that evaporate. alcohol being super volatile is another element that can be lost quite quickly. Now, if you're sipping on a big, ripe, rich 15% fruit bomb that makes your eyes water more than an episode of Eastbound and Down, then time in the decanter can see as much as 0.5% of alcohol ABV disappear in the first hour. In fact, some experiments showed that up to 2% could be lost over 6 hours of decanting. Now that's a little excessive, but the point is that alcohol levels are affected probably more than anything else in the process of decanting. Of course, it's worth remembering that if you are decanting a big tannic wine, alcohol is one of the elements that helps to disguise the astringent quality of tannins in a wine by contributing to a richer, fuller mouthfeel. Lose the alcohol, you lose the mouthfeel. So to summarizing, we know that for the large part, decanting a wine introduces air which allows aromas to come up to greet us. Generally, this is a good thing, but there are the occasional reductive elements that we want to get rid of. And finally, alcohol evaporates quite quickly, and this is one of the largest changes that happens when decanting. When it comes to tannins, how do we manage them in a really big wine? Well, common sense says serve it with a big meaty dish. And most of us seem to think that this is because fat coats the mouth, and this will in fact reduce the impression of astringency in a wine. But there is another slightly nerdier reason why serving big meaty dishes with tannic wines is a good idea. Tannins or polyphenols in a wine are great at precipitating proteins. This means they bind to the proteins in solution and draw them out of solution. Now, your saliva is packed full of proteins, which is what makes it all slimy. Yum. When you take a sip of red wine that is packed full of polyphenols, the phenols bond to the proteins and draw them out of solution. So all of a sudden your saliva is not so slimy and your mouth feels super dry. If you don't believe me, try swirling it around your mouth and spitting it out into a white bowl, and you'll actually see the anthocyanin color pigment phenols bond to the protein in your saliva. It's quite dramatic. So the smart thing here is to serve a dish with lots of protein in, so that when you're eating the protein and drinking the wine, the tannins in the wine bond to some of the protein in the dish and have less of an effect on your mouth. Bill Nye for the win.